Welcome to Global Citizen Life. Today on our podcast, we have Clint Arthur. He is a Wharton Business School graduate and award-winning speaker and info marketer who appears frequently on the Today Show, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox TV News, and talk shows. He shared the stage with Martha Stewart, Dr. Oz, Suzanne Somers, Caitlyn Jenner, IceT, and 5 presidents of the United States at Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, London Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, Mercedes, Porsche, Coca Cola, Microsoft, and the Royal Society of Medicine, AT&T and Carnegie Hall. He lives in New York, Los Angeles, and Acapulco, Mexico, with his wife, Allie, and Nova, their Billion Peso Puppy. Wisdom of the Man is his 21st best-selling book, which was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be with you all the way from Acapulco to Montenegro.
Woo-hoo. Yes, quite the distance between us. And thankfully we have technology that we can connect everywhere around the world.
Amazing, amazing. I have great technology because luckily for me, my next door neighbor is the 10th richest man in the world, and he owns Telmex, which is the AT&T of Mexico. So we have blazing fast Wi-Fi speeds here.
Well, that's great because I'm sure there's a lot of other places in Mexico that don't have that blazing fast Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
So
Even in
Mexico.
Even in Mexico City, you'll get dead spots when you're driving around in an Uber and all of a sudden you have no cellular reception whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you pick Mexico and more specifically Acapulco?
Well, when the pandemic hit, I was on an 8-city speaking tour, and I had just been the host of Tony Robbins' 60th birthday party in Los Angeles. And then the next day, all of my speaking gigs after that started canceling. So I said to my wife, honey, do you want to go back to our apartment on the 13th floor of our apartment building in Midtown Manhattan with all the old people who live in our buildings and quarantine there for 2 weeks? Or do you want to go to our loft in Los Angeles? Or do you want to rent a house in Arizona or Florida, in some place we don't really know? Or do you want to take a vacation in our favorite resort, which was in Acapulco, Mexico? And we hadn't been there in many years because it was too dangerous. You know, Acapulco is so dangerous. And but I figured, what's the difference? We're just going to be in the suite the whole time ordering room service, so why not? And that's exactly what we did. And when I heard the State Department make the announcement that all Americans should return to the United States from abroad to shelter in place, that's when I rented our first villa for 30 days because I just don't believe anything that they say anymore. And from that 30 days, we moved to a different villa that was even better for the next 30 days. And then from that villa, we moved to another one, and we liked that one so much, we stayed 2 months in that one. And then by the end of those 4.5 months in Acapulco, we had found the place. We had seen 50 houses during that time. And we found the villa that we liked the most. And I made the guy an offer and he accepted it. And that's how we bought our first villa in Acapulco. And we started hosting our seminars here for my clients who come down to learn how to have more impact, influence, and income, either in that class or they'll learn how to book themselves on TV in my Celebrity Launchpad or various other seminars that we do here. And it was always our favorite resort to vacation. And now life is kind of like a vacation. You know, I read this quote the other day and I sent it to my wife. It's like, you need to build a life that you don't need to take a vacation from. That's a very good attitude. The thing is that Acapulco gets really, really busy during Christmas and New Year's. And I was here once for that because primarily Acapulco is a Mexican tourist destination. Most Americans don't come to Acapulco anymore because there's so few direct flights from the United States, although there are direct flights from Montreal and Toronto. But the only American direct flights are from Houston and Dallas. That's it. Those are the only direct flights from America to Acapulco, which is crazy. Because this used to be like the tourist destination, a spring break
Mm.
destination. It used to be a big destination for Americans, but now it's mostly Mexicans that come here. So we generally will go away for Christmas and New Year's, and maybe
Mm.
a week into January we'll go someplace. Last year we went to Venice and Rome, and
Nice.
Spain, and that was a fun month, but. Uh, I do love living here because it is a lot like a vacation. Like I'm still kind of dripping wet because I just came from swimming in the ocean.
Oh, that's tough. Well, I recall one time too when I was in Costa Rica. I lived there for a few years, I think 4 or 5 years. And I was talking to somebody who was there on vacation, and he asks, he's like, "Well, you live here. Where do you go for vacation?" I said, "Well, I don't really go anywhere. Like I don't feel like I need vacation. When I lived in Canada, I needed vacation. It was cold, winter, work, and everything else." I said, "But here," I said, "but occasionally I'll go to the city or I'll go back to Canada, and that'll be my trips. But those I don't really feel like vacation." But yeah, it's nice when you can design a lifestyle that is vacation incorporated, or you just don't feel like you need the vacation because it's part of your life.
Yeah, exactly. I you know I love swimming in warm tropical waters. That's my favorite
Mhm.
thing. So that's why I love it here. I mean, I go in the ocean. The ocean is warm and clean
Right.
and clear. So I just came from swimming in the ocean, and that's what I love to do the most. Um, you know, I think a lot of people have come to the understanding that there's more to life than just working all the time and being in the rat race. And I,
Yes.
I think more and more people are putting a higher emphasis on what the Italians have been doing for years and years and years, which is working to live, not living to work. And
Hmm.
look, I'm all for having ambitions and
Mhm.
being successful and making money and doing stuff. And I'm very grateful that we have put together a situation where people want to come here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been pretty amazing. And like at first I didn't know. Like I was sitting in the palapa with my wife, and we built the palapa. That was the first thing we built. That we had this like balcony facing uh, over the pool. There's this little patio above a waterfall going into the pool, and there was only a table with an umbrella there. And I built a palapa. That's like a grass thatched hut, basically. And I said to her, "Look, I don't know if people are going to want to come here or not, but if all we get from buying this villa is that we just get to live here and relax here and have less stress here, we win."
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
so true. And I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic, I really believe, is a lot of people realize what's the point of working all the time to be stressed out, to be unhealthy, to not enjoy life. It doesn't make any sense at all. Obviously there's a certain amount of money that we need to make, and that varies depending upon what city and country we live in. But especially now with the internet, we can live in various places, and we can do what we enjoy doing, and we can enjoy life a lot more.
Yeah, it's a tremendous luxury that we have this ability to have geographic and time freedom because of Zoom. It's not perfect, but you can
No,
do a lot. You can do a lot with Zoom, and it allows me to stay in touch with clients and to do a lot of work with clients, even though it's better to be in person a lot of times. I, I don't make as much as I used to make, but I still do very well. And I don't
yeah,
work nearly as much as I used to work. And the work that I do is in paradise, and I get to swim in the ocean every day that I'm here. So all of that is a plus for me.
absolutely. I mean, and it sounds perfect. And there's studies have shown that money and things don't make people happy. And if you make whether you make $1 million a year or you make 2 million a year, you're not twice as happy as at 2 million as you were at one. And if you make 100,000 to 200,000, you're not twice as happy. You might be a little bit more. You might buy those other extra fancy things and stuff like that, but you're not there. There isn't a correlation with more money equals more happiness. And we see that if we look at a lot of very rich, very famous people that aren't happy, or they have alcohol problems, drug problems, other issues going on. So I mean that is the key. It's why work yourself to death to make money when money isn't going to make you happy anyway.
I agree. And, speaking of alcohol, it's like when I used to come here, like I started coming here in 2013. Yeah, 2013. And then I quit drinking in 2014. And I haven't had a drink in almost 10 years. And every day, like I almost every day I say to my wife, how lucky is it that I don't drink anymore? Because if I was living in Acapulco and I was still drinking, then life would be a complete vacation all the time, because I'd be drunk every single day, because that's what you do on vacation. And then,
Right.
it's hard to be productive if you're drunk every day, because that's what you do on vacation. But because I'm sober, I can still live in a vacation lifestyle and be productive. And I remember when I did my first seminar here, and I was taking everybody back to the airport because the seminar was over and it was time for them to leave. And I remember saying to them, you know how when you go on those vacations and the people drive you to the airport and then you get on the airplane and leave and they get to stay? That's me. I get to stay. I was so happy that I got to stay, and I still am happy. And, most of the time, I was doing quite a few business trips earlier this year or last year. Last year, I was doing a lot of business trips, and I kept saying to the drivers, hey, remind me next time that I told you I don't want to go, because the more I stay here, the less I want to leave, honestly.
And so how much time do you spend between New York and LA?
Uh, I'd say we are in Acapulco 9+ months a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not too much anymore. Is it getting
Mm-mm.
less and less every year?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think things would have to change a lot politically in the United States for me to want to go back and spend more time there. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. And what about cost of living? How is the cost of living there? I mean, LA and New York, we know, are very expensive cities.
Mhm.
But let's compare that a little bit to how things are in Acapulco.
It used to be better. Like when we first came down here, the dollar was super strong. During the pandemic, it was super strong. It was like 21.5 pesos to the dollar. Now we're at 17.5. So there's a huge difference that's negatively impacted Americans traveling here. But it's still better than it used to be. It used to be when we first started coming here, it was like 13 pesos to the dollar. And, really, like Mexicans, they like a plate of fish in a restaurant will be 300 pesos.
Okay.
To them, that's like $30. To us, that's like $18.
Right.
Or 17 or $16. It's a lot better for us because they're looking at it like 10 pesos is a dollar, but we're not looking at it like that. We're looking at it like 17 pesos is a dollar. So it's a lot better for us.
Right.
We got it. Luckily we bought our car when the dollar was 21.5 pesos. We but the houses that we bought were denominated in dollars.
Okay.
One of
It's
them we
interesting
bought
how
from
they
an
do that in
American.
a lot of places. So when they know that
Yeah,
foreigners are buying, they have them in dollars.
it wasn't easy to buy a house here, and several times as an American, as soon as I made an offer, they doubled the price.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to buy a place here, especially in the neighborhood where I wanted to buy. The neighborhood where I wanted, people don't want to sell. It's a very high status neighborhood. Like I said, my next door neighbor is the 10th richest guy in the world. But um, uh, you know, we did a lot of hard work looking, you know, and if you work hard in real estate, you can really make some good deals if you work hard, if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to do the work and go look at enough places and knock on enough doors and
Right.
look at enough websites.
Right, right. And that I find too is a big thing with looking at real estate when you look internationally. What you look at on the websites are most times overpriced things pointing towards foreigners coming in to buy. But when you actually get feet on the ground, even though it is in a way a bit harder, but that's how you're going to find the true places that are generally a better value. You're meeting the right people you're talking to, as you said, you're putting in the work, but you will find the right place and most times a better price than what if you just connect through the internet from a building site or a for sale site.
Yeah, this place wasn't even on the internet.
Yeah.
This place just had like a fabric banner that said for sale and a phone number on it in front of the house, like, you know, a banner hanging down off the front of the house. We were originally going to buy the house next door, and then that owner went crazy on us, and you know, even after I agreed to his price, he went nuts and said I'm not
Oh,
selling it and blah blah blah. And then finally we got to see this place, and this is the first place that we loved, and we bought it. So that was lucky.
right.
But you know, one word of caution that's so important, especially for people who may be new to real estate. You know, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be so luxurious and glamorous to live in a foreign country, and it can be, but don't ever do a real estate deal without physically inspecting the property. You cannot, I mean, there are so many ways to lie and cheat and fake imagery on the internet.
Oh yeah.
You cannot do any real estate deal, even, you know, even as far as like renting an Airbnb for a week. You know, I would be very, very cautious about doing any real estate without physically inspecting the property myself, because, you know, it could be right next to a highway and then you can't sleep, or it could have all kinds of wires in your view that have been photoshopped out, or it could have noisy neighbors, or it could have a dump next door to it with terrible smells. There's a million things that can go wrong with real estate, or it could be facing the highway. I mean, you really,
Or it
really,
doesn't
really
even
need,
exist.
that's possible too.
There,
Or or
there's
it's not
many
ready.
things that don't even exist.
Yeah, or it's not ready. Like it's just an empty shell of a building, and you don't understand the little disclaimer on the bottom in some language that you don't speak that says this is just an artist rendering of what it will look like
Right,
3 years from now when we finish the project. You know, there's a million ways, so you really got to be
right.
very careful. But you know, with that said, I would say if you're thinking about moving to a place, like first of all, I never thought we would move to Acapulco. I mean, I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up in New York City in Midtown Manhattan, and the idea of me not living in a major city in the United States never crossed my mind until the pandemic happened. And like you know, I asked Tony Robbins, I said, Tony, what's the most important thing you ever learned? He said, life is happening for us. And I really do believe life is happening for us, because the pandemic happened for us. It changed our
Right.
lives so much for the better, because it made us appreciate life, and it made us appreciate living, and it made us
Hmm.
appreciate our lifestyle. And that's where we are today. So lucky for us, we came down here and we had 4.5 months where I was basically the only person looking to buy a villa in this neighborhood.
Right.
So, you know, luckily we were able to take good advantage of that. But if you think you want to live someplace and you want to buy something in someplace, go live there for 6 months, or, you know, and
Right.
while you're living there, start looking at properties. And at the end of 6 months, you'll know what the market is. You'll know what's a good deal, what's not a good deal. You got to see a lot of houses. Like seeing 10 or 20 houses is not enough. And that's what most people
Hmm.
will usually do, is only look at 10 or 20 houses and then they buy one. But, you know, I would suggest going to live in the place and then looking at 30, 40, 50, 50. I mean, we looked at more than 50 houses and made offers on a bunch of them and got turned down. And that's good,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
offers, that get turned down. And because this way, you're not offering too much.
Hmm. And you ended up finding what you liked, and that's great. So sometimes the turning down, even though maybe at the time seemed kind of like it sucks that they're not accepting it, but it was a good thing in hindsight. Now that we can look back, I mean, we may not realize it at the time. Sometimes when we look back, those things that don't work out are beneficial for us because we'll get to where we need to be, or get the home that we need to have, or be in the neighborhood that we should be in, instead of rushing in and making decisions kind of on a whim.
Definitely. Especially buying a piece of property, take your time
Mm.
and, don't buy it just because it's cheap. I mean, the house next door, we wanted to buy it because it was cheap, quote unquote cheap.
Mhm.
And luckily we didn't, because that would have, it would have cost way more than this house after we got done renovating it. And it would have taken 2 years of renovation before we'd be able to do anything with it with our clients. Whereas this one, we were able to just come in and start doing seminars immediately, and it worked out great. I mean, now there's a lot of people who are doing seminars in Mexico and in foreign countries like Costa Rica or
Yes.
wherever. But I think I was the first one. I mean, I was doing seminars here in October of 2020. The whole month of October and half of November, we had people here every single week for a
Wow,
seminar.
nice.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it worked out really great. We're very
That's
grateful
good.
to them.
And you're right. Just because something is cheap, sometimes you get what you pay for. And there's ones cheap can be deals. There can be if you don't mind fixing up, but then you also have to think of if you're going to fix up or have to do renovation. Now you're not doing it in your home country when we're used to doing maybe some stuff ourselves. Building is done differently. Finding quality workers to do the renovation, the construction, the time spent, the money, all of a sudden that potentially cheap property may not end up being as cheap by the time it gets to be the way that you want it to be.
Yeah, I would really always recommend that you buy something where you don't have to do anything to it. Especially
Mhm.
as a foreigner in a foreign country, you don't know what's going to be involved. Contractors are always difficult to deal with in the best case scenarios. So you're way better off trying to find a turnkey property where you could just walk in and start living your life and not have to worry about customizing it or making it better. I mean, painting, doing a little painting is one thing, but
Of course,
doing any
yeah.
kind, especially if you're not a person who's used to doing renovations or construction. Luckily for me, I have background and I've done a lot of construction and renovation, but if you're not a person who's done a lot, then you should really find something where even if you have to pay a little more, you're better off not having stuff pending. Just,
Right.
get in and start living your life and you're way better off.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that because and you never know. I mean, it happens everywhere. You start a renovation and all of a sudden it end up going down like that dark hole of, oh, we found this problem. Now there's this problem. Now there's that. And
Yeah.
so as much as we can, it is best to avoid that. I agree with you on that.
100%. Cool.
And so you've been there. So you've gone through the visa process. You are temporary resident, I believe,
Yep.
and working towards permanent residency.
I'm told that if I want to, at the end of the 4-year temporary residency, I can automatically convert to being a permanent resident. I don't know why I would do that, but I do have that option, and I like it. Especially since one of the conspiracy theory podcasts I saw the other day said that Mexico is finishing the wall to keep the Americans out. So, what I did not want to have happen was to show up in Mexico one day after a business trip to the United States or a vacation or whatever and have them deny me entry. And meanwhile, I have 2 houses here. So
Right.
that's why I went ahead and have basically a Mexican green card.
Hmm. And what about, are you going to work towards citizenship or have you not thought about that at this point?
I don't know why I would do that. If I was going to get citizenship in another country, I would probably look for a zero tax haven to get a citizenship.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know why I would want to be a citizen of Mexico. I don't know
Well,
what the
just
advantage
sometimes it's
is.
nice to have a second passport as a backup plan.
Yeah, but the Mexican passport is not a great passport.
No, it's not ideal, but if the US decides not to renew your passport for any reason at any time, now you're hooped, you're stuck. Like you either stay there and not leave Mexico until you become a citizen, or you end up going back to the US not being able to leave because you don't have a passport.
I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm
Mhm.
entitled to a passport. I mean, things would really.
Actually, you know what? But if you ask the government, you are not entitled to a passport. They own the passport. It's a privilege and not a right to have it, and they can refuse giving passports. In Canada, when the trucker convoy protesting the whole everything,
Yep,
they froze people's bank accounts for protesting.
yep,
They froze some
yep,
people's bank accounts for donating to the protest, and they threatened the protesters to not renew their passports or not issue them if they were going to be protesting.
yep, yep. You're right.
And I just
Hey, look,
like that's
it's a
crazy that
crazy
a country would
it's
potentially do that.
it's a crazy political world right now, and you're 100% right. Uh, we just got my wife's passport renewed for another 10 years, and mine is coming
Okay.
due soon, and we'll probably do that as well.
Hmm.
Just because you're right, and that's exactly why I got the temporary residency for 4 years, because
Right.
now I have the right to enter. I can't be denied because I'm a resident. So
Right.
that's these days you got to think about these kinds of things. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even 5 years ago, not that big of a deal. 10 years ago, never really thought too much of it. But now it's something to consider. So how about banking there? Do you have a bank account in Mexico?
No,
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, I take my American ATM card to any ATM and I can get pesos out of the machine.
Hmm.
I earn all my money in the United States.
Right.
So I filed taxes in the United
Of
States.
course. Yes, you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. So luckily it's a pretty global banking system still. And
Hmm.
having I don't see the advantage of being a Mexican citizen. I don't see the advantage of having a Mexican bank account. I don't see the advantage of having a Mexican driver's license. I don't see,
Right.
I,
Hmm.
I can do pretty much whatever I want as an American still.
Right. The bank account, though, I would open one. I've got bank accounts in several countries just because, again, if my bank account gets frozen because I protest or donate to a protest, or my bank gets hacked, or I get what is identity theft, it's always nice to have at least another bank account in another country that has a bit of money in it to buy groceries, pay bills, take care of whatever kind of day-to-day stuff until that issue can get resolved. Obviously, if it's a bank hack issue, that they'll work on that a lot faster. But if it was somebody who stole your identity and now they're freezing your bank account, then
Yeah.
what do you do when you can't access your own funds? So I always think it's important to just have another bank account somewhere, just, kind of a just in case. And hopefully you never need it. But if you do, then you have it to use for kind of an emergency fund.
Well, there are filing requirements in the United States that,
Yes.
you have to
The FBAR, you
declare
have to
any
file the
kind of
FBAR every
foreign.
year. Mm,
Yeah. So, that's one reason why I don't want to do it.
right. No,
Yeah.
that's all good. But so
But I do
how
love it. I
Mhm.
do love life outside of the country. I do love, like, I never imagined that I would be doing this, but I love living in an unexpected lifestyle. That's, I'd say, is one of the cool things. Discovering the new cultures and learning the language is fun. Um,
Mhm.
we have a higher standard of living because we're living in American dollars in a less expensive place.
Right.
Um, there are not a lot of Americans here. So it's very lucky that like we are friends with a lot of our clients.
Hmm.
So my clients are all authors, speakers, coaches, experts, people who are really smart, people who are very, aspirational, people who are a lot like me. So,
Right.
it's lucky because we have a lot of friends who come and visit us.
That's nice.
But I've watched a lot of these, House Hunter International shows,
Oh,
and
yes.
they always have, we have to have a spare bedroom for when our family comes to visit. I'm like, yeah, when's your family coming to visit? They're not coming to visit you, because a lot of people don't come. A lot of people won't come, and and you don't want a lot of people to come, for real, honestly, to come and stay with you. How long are they going to come and stay with you? We're lucky. We have giant houses. We can have people come stay with us and we won't even see them. But if
Right.
you're living in a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment, how long do you really want someone from your family to come and stay with you in your life and impose their tourist needs on you when you're just trying to live?
Exactly. And or work. Like we're still working. And when they come, so when I lived in Costa Rica, I had visitors come and visit. And a few times I even my mom, I'd say, Mom, it's like, oh, I gotta work. She's like, oh, you're working? I'm like, yes, Mom, I'm working. You're on vacation. I'm working. When I come to Canada, you don't not go to work because I'm there, but I have to work. Like I am working. This is my everyday life. I get it's your vacation. And so like the first time they visit, of course, I'm the tour guide. I take them everywhere. The second time, a little bit better that they can do some things on their own. But you're right, it's nice to have visitors. Um, I spent years in Spain, no visitors there. So, it kind of depends, I think, where you are, and in a number of things. But yeah, I don't visitors occasionally are nice, but not all the time because I still have my routine, my work, my lifestyle, the things that I do. And when people are coming to stay, it does, if it's short term, it's no big deal. But when it becomes long term or when it's constant, then now you're messing up my life.
Well, I'm like I said, I'm really, really grateful that we have figured out a way that
Mhm.
people can come here and take my class, and I'm earning money when I have visitors here. And
Right.
we bought a 20,000 square foot house with 8 bedrooms that sleep 16 people, so we could do a pretty good sized seminar, and
Mm.
people still don't feel like they're cramped. They feel like they're here in
Right.
luxury, and it all works out. But not everybody is fortunate enough to create that kind of lifestyle. I don't know if you could see,
Absolutely.
you
Hmm.
know,
Beautiful.
this is right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm a person where collaboration is really important to me. Here, they're still cleaning up a little bit, but this is like where we do the main training seminar areas, and this
Okay.
is
Hmm.
this is like a living area and pool table, and we eat the meals here, and you can see the pool over there. So
Hmm.
I mean, I'm the kind of person where I like to collaborate with people. So if I'm doing a seminar, I feel like I'm collaborating, and a lot of times I am collaborating with the people. Like a lot of times, one of my seminars is about how do you book yourself on TV, and I'm pitching the TV studios at the same time. Whoops, sorry about that. At the same
That's all
time as
right.
all my clients are pitching the TV studios. So,
Right.
it is a collaboration.
Absolutely. And collaborating, I think, is the best way to work. It's beneficial for everyone.
Yeah. If you're like, if I'm a creator, and I like to create with people. I write books with people. I write TV segments for people, and I coach them on pitching them. So when they come here, we're doing stuff together. Like
Hmm.
we're working together here in Mexico for their
Right.
career and for my career at the same time. So it's I'm so grateful that we were able to invent this whole situation. And, I would say that's a really big, important part of, if you're going to be uprooting your life and becoming an expatriate and inventing a whole new life, invent a life that you want, invent the
Right.
life of your dreams. Because if you're not living the life of your dreams after you've uprooted yourself and like created a whole brand new life, why not?
Right. Well, and then what? If it's not your dream life, then you're still going to be wanting something different, wanting more, wanting that dream, wanting bits of it. And so you're still not going to be truly happy.
Yeah, I mean, if you are going to the trouble of starting all over again, then start building the life of your dreams. That's the whole point of being an
Right.
expatriate, living in the place. Like, my wife and I have traveled all over. We used to think that the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Honolulu was the greatest place in the world, but only after we stopped coming here. This was always our favorite place to go on vacations. And
Okay.
we only stopped coming here because it was so dangerous. But then once we were living here for 4.5 months, it didn't seem dangerous anymore.
Right.
We were on the ground dealing with the reality of boots on the ground versus the propaganda of what's in the media. And, they put what
And
they
that's
want in, not necessarily what's.
exactly. That's a huge problem too. I've traveled to many countries and by myself, the vast majority of them. And so many people are like, oh, you went there by yourself? You would go there? And I've said, I've been to, I think, 46 countries, and I've never felt unsafe or worried about being anywhere. Now, obviously, I'm not doing stupid things and stuff like that, but there's so many great places, even though the the media will make you want to think like, and it's whether it's Canada, you don't want to go to certain places. Canada's the best, or the United States be like, oh, don't go here, don't go there, it's dangerous. The United States is the best. And, every country has their propaganda of not wanting their citizens to leave. But once you start to ignore that and just go places, you realize that there's so many wonderful places in the world. There's so many places that are safe and you don't have to worry as long as you're not doing dumb things. Um, but it is the propaganda of the media that I really dislike. I just dislike it. It's unfortunate because they just give too many bad names to people or places or things that just don't, they're just not right.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about not doing stupid things. I mean, sobriety has been a tremendous gift for me. Not only am I able to be in a vacation destination like Acapulco and still able to function instead of being drunk 24 hours a day, but I don't go to bars, and that's where a lot of unsavory characters hang out. And I don't do drugs, and that's another way to get involved with people who you don't want to be involved with. And I don't do prostitution. So, I mean, those are the main areas where a foreigner is going to get in trouble in a foreign country: drinking, doing drugs, or getting involved with prostitutes. And,
Right.
if I'm just going to an occasional restaurant, or going to a
Mhm.
shopping mall, or going to the beach for the afternoon, or going to the movies, or going to Home Depot, or taking my dog to the vet. Now, unfortunately, my dog had an operation and got, look, I don't know if it was because the vet was Mexican, or I don't know, but she had an allergic reaction to the sutures, and like all the skin dissolved on her leg, and her leg looked like a pork chop for like 6 months. That's why
Oh
we
no.
call my dog the Billion
The
Peso
billion
Puppy,
peso puppy.
because I spent 1 billion pesos on that dog at the vet when she was living at the
Oh,
vet for 6 months with a pork chop instead of the leg. That was a big negative about this experience. But on the whole, I found that medical processes in Mexico are as good or better. Like, here's something I did that was awesome. One of my friends here told me he went to the ophthalmologist and he got um, a cataract replaced
oh,
with with a trifocal lens. I said, really? And I did some investigation and I found that you don't need to even have cataracts to get that. I just got rid of my reading glasses by taking out my natural crystalline lenses and replacing them with trifocal interocular lenses, basically putting trifocal contact lenses in my eyes. And I did that in a shopping mall, like in a strip
Really?
mall, in Mexico, in Acapulco. I had some Mexican ophthalmologist blind me by removing my natural lenses and replacing them with trifocal interocular lenses. Now, this is called premium lens replacement, but I don't wear reading glasses anymore. I have basically perfect vision again. I will never lose the perfect vision, and I won't get cataracts, and I won't get macular degeneration because of this operation. So
That's amazing. I mean, it does sound a little bit sketchy going to getting it done in the mall. Like part of me's like, oh, but I get it. I mean, it's different places have it done. So how much did that cost, if you don't mind me asking?
in the USA, that would have been 14, 15, $16,000 for both eyes, and it was
Mhm.
$4,700.
Yeah.
4,700 bucks to never wear glasses again, and to have, you know, I can read my watch, I can read my phone, I can read anything. I have great vision once again, and this is a
Wow.
true joy. Thank you,
Hmm.
Mexico. And in general, I've had hair replacement operations in Mexico. I just got stem cell therapy in Mexico. Uh,
That's becoming a big thing. Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of things that, and for example, in the USA, you can only get one type of lens. There's only one lens approved for use in the United States for the operation that I had. It's called a PanOptix lens. And
Right.
my ophthalmologist did not select that lens for my eyes. He said there was a different lens manufactured in Hungary, a Hungarian
Okay.
lens that was better. It's called the Liberty lens. And he installed that in my eyes. I mean, you have a bigger choice of products because, you know, I'm not restricted by what the FDA has approved.
Right.
I can have whatever I want in Mexico. Mexico is more of like the Wild West, where you can do or have anything you want.
Yeah.
I say to my wife,
And
Mexico
at
is
a
like,
reasonable price compared to the cheap compared to the US.
I say to my wife that Mexico is the land of making your dreams come true, because whatever you want, you can have it. And it usually doesn't cost a lot of money. You just have to think it up, dream it, tell them what you want, find somebody to do it, and they'll do it. And they'll happily, get paid a lot less than you would have to pay in the USA.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, medical treatments in various countries. I know even when I was living in Costa Rica, I needed to get a root canal done just after I got there. And I thought, man, I had insurance in Canada. Now I'm paying out of pocket here. And the whole thing, all said and done, cost me. Now it was back in about 2011, 2011, 2012. It cost me 125 US dollars for a root
Yeah.
canal all done. And even in Canada with my insurance would have cost me a lot more than that.
Yeah. I mean, there are basically two different medical systems in Mexico. One
Okay.
is for the Mexican people. And I think that's
Mhm.
why you become a citizen, because you want to get onto their socialized medicine program. But there's a higher quality cash medical system for
Right.
rich people. Basically anybody who's not a Mexican person, you're going to be paying for your medical treatment. And it's as good or better sometimes than what you could
Right.
pay for in the USA, and costs half or less as much money.
Hmm. Yeah, that definitely is a big benefit to leaving the US to go to several countries is just the healthcare alone. Even Canada, I mean, Canada, it's part of our taxes, so I don't have to pay to see the doctor. But the wait list now, the wait time, it's so long that I mean, you don't want to be getting sick. You don't want to really be needing anything because you're going to be waiting, like even in an emergency room, waiting 8 hours, 10 hours. It's not a good situation either. So yeah, it's great that there are places, um, that still offer good care and, at a reasonable price as well.
Look, this was basically a big part of the decision to come to Acapulco during the pandemic, because my apartment in New York City is like 5 blocks away from NYU Hospital, which is one of the best hospitals in the world. One of my friends who got COVID during the pandemic, one of my Facebook friends, some guy I've never personally met, but I've seen him post many things on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
He went to NYU Hospital. I think he was even on a ventilator for some time and came off the ventilator by the grace of God and survived, and was very happy and grateful to the nurses and doctors at NYU Hospital for saving his life during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, the choice was, okay, do we want to live where it's 85 degrees and sunny with 80% humidity every day, basically the conditions which are least likely for you to get COVID? Or do we want to have the resources at our fingertips in case we get sick? So basically we went for the ounce of prevention versus the pound of cure. And that's the whole point. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'd rather prevent it than cure it. So that's why we came to Acapulco, and now that's why we live here, because basically, I feel like I would rather prevent stress than try to cure the results of stress, because you're not going to be able to reverse the stress on your body. Stress is the killer. Stress is going to take years off your life. It's going to give you a heart attack. It's going to give you cancer. It's going to give you all those things. So if you're living a life in whatever country you live in that is full of stress because of your preconceived notions of what life is supposed to be like, then by all means, pack a suitcase, not a lot of suitcases, just pack one suitcase and go move someplace. I mean, that's what we did. We came here with one carry-on bag and a briefcase each. That's what we came here with. And we built a life out of that, because why do you need more than that? You can buy anything you want. There's Walmart everywhere. So go to where you want to be and invent the life you want to live, and do it so that you are living happy, healthy, and stress-free. And if that's all you get out of it, then you win, because by eliminating stress, you're going to live an extra decade.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so true. And it just sometimes I get frustrated with people that are just so scared to take that step, so worried. They're so, what if it doesn't work? What if it's bad? What if, it's always that negative what if things. And I always try to say, what if it's amazing? What if it's the best decision you've ever made? And then it's, yeah, okay, well, maybe the first place you go to you don't like. But you know what? You're not stuck there. If you don't like that first place, go to another place. And it could be within the same country. You could try different cities, different size towns, different regions. You'll get a different feel from it within one country. But if you don't really like the vibe of that country, go to another country. Go to another country.
We moved here. Let's see. We bought this place when I was like 55, 56, something like that. I've been all over the world. We've been everywhere. And this was always our favorite vacation. So that's why we came here for the pandemic. And then, our favorite thing is to look at real estate. So while we were just in rented villas, we started looking at villas that were for sale and, made it happen. And that's why you need to live in a rented place for at least 3-4 months to see if you actually do like it. Very important.
Yeah, I agree. I was just earlier I was talking to another girl who'll be on the podcast as well. And she was saying, so she also moved to Mexico, and she was first in Mexico City. She spent 3 months there in 2 different places. And she just said no. She's like, I'm so over the big city. She's lived in many, and she's from the US, lived in many. And now she lives in this small little pueblo. I can't even remember the name of it offhand. Very small place, kind of near the mountains. She's like, it's just so relaxing. It's so nice. It's quiet. She said, for some people, it'd probably find it boring, but I'm immersing into the Mexican culture and doing all these different things. And she says, I really enjoy it. I am so relaxed and not in that grind that I used to be all the time. And I just love it.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, my wife and I were looking at pictures of one of her friends on Facebook has some huge ranch in Tennessee. And she just
Okay.
built a huge barn for the two horses for the daughters. And we're looking at all these pictures and there's nothing. There's no neighbors, right? And we were just talking about how that would really not be for us. You got to know who you are and what you like. And
Hmm.
that's the most important part about being an expatriate and going to go live in some foreign land. Look, if you're a digital nomad, you're some kid, you got a backpack and a laptop and an iPhone, you go do whatever you want. And what's the difference? But when you're a mature person like us, and you've seen a bit of the world, that's the advantage of being a mature person and having lived and learned and figured out, what do you like? Where do
Hmm.
you like? Who do you want to be with? And go create that life for yourself. And as first world people, if you pick a country that's a developing or less developed country, even Mexico. See, here's the crazy part, is that Mexicans think that Mexico is a developing country. I say, what is the difference between Acapulco and Los Angeles? Only two or three things. Number one, the streets are cleaner. Did balloons just go by?
They did. I don't know. They just went up on the screen and I don't know. I don't know if you pushed a button or something and if you did that or I don't know. And
I
all of a sudden you did something earlier and the thing came down and I was like, okay, I'll just go with it. But yeah, balloons just came
I
up now and I have no idea what that was. I've never seen it before. So okay,
Oh my
cool.
God, that was so crazy. All right, but what's the difference? What's the difference between Los Angeles and Acapulco? Number one, the streets are cleaner. There's no trash in the street. Number two, you ready for this? Number two, there's no homeless people in Mexico.
That is a huge difference from, I'll just say North America in general, even Canada.
And I
So
asked one of my friends in Mexico City, I said, how come, where's all the homeless people in Mexico City? There's so many poor people living in Mexico City. Where's
right.
all the homeless people? He goes, that's a very good question. And I think what it comes down to is that Mexicans take care of their family, like they're more family oriented. And if you are, if you need to, you live with your parents or they'll build a shack for you in the backyard or something like that. Whereas in
Mm.
America, that kind of family support just doesn't exist.
No, no.
But
It's
those
kind of
those
you
are the
reach a
big
certain
differences.
age and you're on your own. Figure it out, make it work.
Those are the big differences that I see between Los
Yeah.
Angeles and Acapulco. Less trash in the streets and no homeless people in Acapulco. That's it. That's it. Oh, okay. There are jugglers in the streets. When you go to a red light, there's a juggler there, or there's a kid selling chiclets or bottles of water. But you have that in Los Angeles too.
Yeah.
You have,
Oh, yeah.
you have that all over. So I don't
Absolutely.
know. Uh, I don't think. I mean, I have fast. My Wi-Fi here is faster than my Wi-Fi in New York City, and I have Verizon Fios in New York City, and my Wi-Fi here is faster. So you tell me, my AT&T cell phone works the same here as it does in the USA. You tell
Mhm.
me why this country is any less developed than the United States. I don't see it. The only thing I see is that the cost of living is less because the natives make less money.
Mhm. And I mean, that's like many countries. But the media and the propaganda, it's like, oh, they're third world, they're developing, oh, it's not safe there. And if you people go to a lot of them, like as you said, those digital nomad backpacker young people, go travel, see as many places as you can go. It's great because then they really see what it's like around the world. And when they do get older, they can decide which place that they really want to go to and stay at. I think everybody should go and travel and see places because just because you were born and raised in a first world country or the West, as they say, or anything, doesn't mean it's the best place to live. Not by far. And that's a personal opinion. For some people, absolutely. I know people live in the United States, live in Canada, absolutely love it, never want to leave it. They think it's great. I think you should travel more. But you
Yeah.
know, it's everybody's different. So you love Mexico. Some people are going to go to Spain or France or Italy or wherever. It's finding what we enjoy, what we like, what we connect, and as you said, the lifestyle that we want to have, and making it work. And it's not as hard as I think what people think it is. It's not as scary. There's definitely challenges, but there's challenges living in our home countries.
Well, look, uh, you need to have set up for yourself geographic and time freedom so that you can continue to earn money in the United States while you're living somewhere else.
Mm,
Because it may not be possible for you to get a job where you are,
that's true. Hmm.
okay? Or you may not be able to teach us, maybe you don't teach a seminar like I do and have people, maybe your situation, like, we basically bought a little resort. So it's very attractive for people to come to
Mm,
do my seminars here, but maybe you can't do that. So, I remember when I was on a coaching call with one of my doctor clients, and I was in Honolulu getting an NAD plus anti-aging drip infusion into my arm, and I'm talking to her on Wi-Fi using Zoom or Skype or whatever.
hmm.
And I said to her, I used to be a taxi driver. I drove a taxi. Look, I chased the Hollywood dream for 13 years, and I couldn't get arrested in Hollywood except for the DUI. And I was able to turn it around and become a marketing expert, helping other authors, speakers, coaches, and other experts to raise your status in the eyes of your customers and prospects so you can get paid more and you get the jobs you want and you can sell seminar tickets and you can get higher prices for your consulting and coaching or whatever you do or sell for people. I was able to do that even though I was a cab driver. You're a doctor. How come you don't have the geographic and time freedom that I have? You got an MD. Why, you have more credentials than me. Why don't you have this kind of time and geographic freedom? And today she does. Today, like through my coaching and doing work on her own, now she works in her practice 7 days a month. And the rest of the time, she travels. And she hosts her own seminars here at my villa. Two times a year, she does 2 weeks of seminars here. She rents the villa from me and teaches her own seminars here. So if you're a person who is thinking about becoming an expatriate, I would highly advise you to figure out how can you create time and geographic freedom for yourself so that you can continue to earn American money when you're living anywhere else that you want. Because if you can
Right.
do that, then you are, at least for the immediate future, you're pretty good. I don't
Yeah.
know, 5 years from now, what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to
Who
happen in the
knows?
world,
Who knows?
right? But that should really be your goal, is figuring out how you can continue to earn money doing what you do for your clients in the United States while you're traveling the world or living somewhere else.
Right. I completely agree. Because getting work visas and things like that is very challenging. So it's a lot easier and better to have that set up. And you're working with US dollars, which goes a lot further in many countries.
Usually, it's
Yeah.
definitely the goal, and you may need to find a mentor to help you to do that, right? And I'll tell you, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. The smartest thing I ever did was investing in mentors, because
Mm,
investing in mentors showed me the path of how I could become the person that I am today, how I could have the life that I have today. And it was all those investments that I did, learning from people who were doing what I wanted to do, who were
right.
living the life, who were living the career. They had the career that I wanted to have. So I paid to learn from them. How do you have that career? How do you have that kind of freedom? and power in your life while you also can be out in the world having the adventure that you love. Those are my 3 words. My 3 words are freedom, power, and adventure. And that's how I live my life.
I think those are 3 great words. And it's true. I was talking with somebody earlier too, and I said, we were just talking about getting advice. And I said, never get advice from somebody who doesn't have the life you want. The career or the job, the lifestyle, or living where you want. Because if you're asking your sister, cousin, brother, friend,
Yeah.
they're going to give you advice that got them to where they're at. Unless you want to go that way, that's their advice to get them where they're at. You need to work with or get advice from somebody who is living the lifestyle or doing what you want to do.
And maybe there is nobody. Maybe your world that you're creating is so elevated that you don't know anybody who can give you advice. There's this saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you have to go with a team. And I don't agree with that at all, because the far that I want to go, nobody else is going that far. I'm inventing my own path. There's a different saying that I really prefer, and that is, for a leader, there is no map.
Right.
The leader is going places where nobody has gone before. And when I was thinking about buying a house in Acapulco, Mexico, and I was talking to my friends around the world on Facebook Messenger, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And most of them were telling me, what are you, crazy? Spending all that money on a house in Acapulco? What are you, crazy? And it turned out to be the best thing we have ever done, because people don't know. They don't know what your life is, and they don't know what it's like. And they may not love Acapulco. For them, for that guy, Manila, he loves living in Manila. I don't really have any interest in living in Manila. And he doesn't have any interest in living in Acapulco. So that's why he lives in Manila and I live in Acapulco. And we're both Americans. And we're both Americans, So
no, it's
what you want.
Exactly. It is. It's figuring out what you want, and it's a process for sure. And getting help, whether it's taking courses, mentorship, signing up with masterminds, whatever it may be, depending upon what people are doing for work and what they want to do.
Yep.
Those things will get you there faster, as long as you do the work. It will get you there faster. You can, like, I can do what I'm doing all by myself, and eventually I'll get to a certain point. But when I'm working with people and doing things that they know because they've done it, I will get to certain points faster as well.
No doubt, no doubt. And when you have a good mentor who knows what they're doing, and ideally is still doing it, like, unfortunately, you got to be careful about a mentor, especially if you're hiring a mentor, that they're not just teaching you some syllabus that worked 10 years ago. Like, one of the things that I say to my clients is that I'm still doing everything that I'm teaching you to do. This is what I do. That's what you really want to look for. And you need to be especially as a foreigner in a foreign land, you need to be a discerning buyer, because you don't really know the ins and outs of the culture and the country where you're living. You've got to be a really discerning buyer and not too eager to give your money away to somebody else.
Right. That's true. Very true.
Yep.
Well, Clint, it's been great talking with you today. And so if people wanted to get in touch with you, to come to one of your seminars that you have, or to work with you, or anything like that, where can they get in touch with you?
My website is Clint with 3Ts.com. Why 3Ts? CLINTTT, because one of my clients was the inventor of the science of nameology. What does your name really mean? And she said to me, Clint, I wish you could add an extra T to the end of your name, because the T's always end up on top. And so I could not get Clint with 2Ts.com, but I got Clint with 3Ts.com. So that's a nice, easy way to remember. And if you want to check out my coaching consulting events are not cheap. They're high dollar, high ticket events for people who are pretty advanced as entrepreneurs. So if you want to check me out before that, go check out my book, Wisdom of the Men. It's on Amazon. The Audible is particularly good. If you enjoyed hearing my voice, there's 9 hours of my voice on the Audible version of Wisdom of the Men on Amazon. So crack off one of your credits and get Wisdom of the Men. It's worth it.
Perfect. And we will have links to that in our show notes below to make all of those things easy to get for all of the listeners. So
Thank you,
thank you
Sally.
very much for your time. It was great talking with you. And I know that the listeners got a lot of valuable information from our conversation today.
Great. I hope so. Great to meet you. Live your life of your dreams, everybody.